After all the events, turns out to be prophetic because that's exactly what he needed. Cousins.
Chains. How do you feel right now, Eli?
I'm feeling great. It's a big win. Fired up for these guys. I told Kirk the other day, I said, hey,
game-winning drives this year in the fourth quarter, and you come back from behind and lead your team to victory. How you feel about that, my guy?
Yeah, Griff, it was a lot of fun. It's just so fun to talk ball with these guys. We all kind of speak the same language at the end of the day, and I went against Eli. You went against Eli so many years, and so it's fun to have him on your side now. And that same
raving about forever. You said he's the best quarterback. You said he had a better upside than Andrew Luck. Blah, 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 blah. He's the #2 overall pick. And here you are talking about some dude that was picked 100 spots lower than him. He's supposed to be worried about that. If RG3 is worried in any way about Kirk Cousins, then he is not the player you said he is. He is not the player everybody else said he is. He's certainly not the player that I think he is. And I know that this kid can play. Kirk Cousins. I mean, this dude, he's coming into the league. He knows he's a backup. We'll see what you do.
Look as smooth or as comfortable throwing the football. I mean, your eyes will tell you everything you need to know. It's going to be a decision that Jay Gruden is going to have to make. Right now, Robert Griffin III is his quarterback. Now, if there was a quarterback competition, it wouldn't be a competition. Kirk Cousins would be the man I believe he would have to go with because of the efficiency with which he has run the offense. Okay, his take, no chaser there, guys. Stephen, I'll give this one to you. You agree with him?
Pretty much.
Anywhere else. Man, as a diehard, I grew up a diehard Washington Redskins fan. And it was quite the sight. It was quite interesting to see yesterday RG3, the former savior of the entire franchise. It was quite an interesting sight to see RG3 interviewing Kirk Cousins, somebody that was his backup at one point, interviewing him after Kirk Cousins ends up in the Pro Bowl with a different team. All right, so let me just break this down for you guys, all right? Because I've been on record. I have said it so many times, I'm almost tired of hearing myself say it. All right, the NFL does not need a league. They don't need to the draft, all that shit. We need to cut the draft and create a feeder system. All right, this is why, like the example that I just told you, what I just said is a prime example why the NFL has got to stop all of this hype, all this bullshit behind the NFL draft, all this attention that we give to the NFL draft. We need to cut that and focus on a feeder system. Focus on creating a feeder system. Understand, RG3, they gave up, must have been, 2012, or I believe, around 2012 time. They gave up everything. They gave up everything to get the second pick so they can pick RG3. And then in the fourth round, they go and pick Kirk Cousins. All right, they go and pick Kirk Cousins, and you see how that whole thing panned out. And it's been years since that time, and the franchise has yet to recover. All right, and it's the same thing that's happened with Baker Mayfield, and the list goes on and on. It's because the NFL does not need another league. The problem is all of the hype that goes on to this draft, and we pay players that have yet to be proven. We have not invested in developing players. And too often do people think that the solution is to create another league or to create like an XFL or a USFL, a spring league. All of that shit makes no sense. It makes no sense. Here's why. When you try to create a separate league outside of the NFL, now you are competing with the idea, with the concept of sending your kid off to college while playing, sending your son off to get an education while playing football. You're competing with that idea, whether you like it or not. And nowadays, the fact that now that college football players can be paid, it makes no sense. You have to you're going to go and try to sell a player to come play for your brand new startup league when they could be making money while they're getting a degree, while they're getting a college education. Makes absolutely no sense, will not work. And the more people do it, the more it ruins the league. Now, for the franchise that I tried to start in, what the NFL does need to do, just a couple miles from here, there's a ballpark. There's a ballpark named Ballpark for Palm Beaches, right? ballpark for Palm Beaches, and if you go there, you see the Houston Astros, you see the Washington Nationals, you see MLB franchises, specific franchises who have a farm team, a farm system in which they move players up. That's what the NFL needs. They need, for example, if we want to, since we'll keep it local, one of the things when I worked for the Miami Dolphins Foundation, one of the things that I noticed that they actually did do a great job at was connecting the Miami Dolphins with the high schools in the area. They had like high school media day and making sure that the community was connected. So for example, if we want to use the example of a team like the Miami Dolphins. If the Miami Dolphins were to put a franchise in let's say they put a franchise in Jamaica, right? And they create a solid franchise in which that team is their absolute, that team is like their AA ball club, in which they send players who they might be thinking about drafting that they want to keep in shape and stuff like that. Then we have a solid system. Then you have an opportunity to send players there to develop, get better, and you don't have to deal with the media. You don't have to deal with a player who gets too much attention from the media. I watched that entire RG3 thing I watched it from start to finish as a diehard fan. RG3, the reason that it ended up the way it ended up is because his talent was exposed to the media. And the year he got hurt, from his rookie year when he got hurt all the way to the next season, he had to start that week 1 game because you had Gatorade sponsoring him, you had Subway sponsoring, you had all these sponsors that they were trying to keep happy. So it became this big major marketing thing, all in for week 1, and you see how much that ruined his actual career. When your talent gets exposed like that, all of a sudden now you just don't have the ability to control it. As the Washington Redskins, they didn't have the ability to kind of cater him, to bring him in and say, look, you need to get your knee right, you need to develop. The only thing that they could do at that point was get rid of him and start the backup, bring in the guy that was his backup at one point. And that's why I will listen, I will do this, I will fight for this as long as I'm here on this earth. But the NFL franchises need to figure out theater systems. This is why when I started the Ocean City Sharks, I was going about it looking to work with fitness sponsors, looking to work with the local community. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. One of the things I actually did was I went and tried to reach out to a sports bar named Green Turtle, because I know Steve Bisciotti, who's the owner of the Baltimore Ravens. I know he was part of opening one of those Green Turtles, and I wanted to create a system in which, look, the team doesn't get a whole lot of media attention, but it's one of those things where the Baltimore Ravens could have came in and said, look, this is one of our systems, this is one of our franchises, and we send our guys to this specific team because of how it helps our local fan base. Very, very important that you grasp that, because again, as a fan of the game, as a person who works in sports, works on this game, has been involved with this game for virtually my entire life, you see the writing on the wall. This thing is going in the wrong direction, and the more and more we have to pay the RG3s, I don't want to use RG3 as an example, the more you have to pay somewhere like a Baker Mayfield, the more you have to pay these first round picks, the more the more in a hole, the bigger hole it creates for us to get out of. And it's just a really, really fucking shitty business model. And it's going to be hard to recover from it. All right.